Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to Wake Up, Look Up, a podcast where we connect events happening in real time to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Zach Wyrock. And in this episode, we're looking at political conventions. And we're asking the question, should they be at church? And by this, I don't mean what you're worried I mean. Of course, we're not looking at whether or not churches should host political conventions. But we are making an interesting parallel. After all, just this past week, the Republican National Convention held their annual gathering in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a coronation for former president, now presidential candidate Donald Trump. It came with the announcing of his vice president and a ton of speakers and just a general celebration of Republican politics. Conventions are meant to be launching off points for which you launch a national presidential campaign. The DNC, the Democrats, will host their convention in mid-August in Chicago, Illinois, where they'll look to do the same thing. The RNC gathering was in the news this past week, and the Democrats will dominate the news in mid-August. There's something about political conventions that capture our attention, and not just ours as readers and viewers, but the thousands of people who go, who gather, who spend all week in a convention hall hearing people talk and celebrating their shared beliefs as to what America should be. I can't help but thinking when I look at these things that by and large, conventions are really very similar to church services. I don't know if you've thought about it, but people go somewhere that isn't their home. They gather with people they don't really know, with whom they share an ideological bond. They listen to people talk, they sit, they stand, they probably drink bad coffee and eat donuts as well. These things are really just kind of like political/religious gatherings. Not only, by the way, because of the cheap similarities I just mentioned, but because really conventions are opportunities to gather with people and find together a collective sense of meaning and purpose. Well, what are we doing at church besides the exact same thing? Gathering together to find shared meaning and purpose in our faith in Jesus Christ. I think that comparison is so important for a couple of reasons, all of which I think will impact everyone listening or watching this podcast. The first is that political conventions are really just cheap copies of church services. You can take people out of church, basically, but you cannot take church out of people. That's because we are hardwired for meaning and purpose. We're made in the image of a God who is always on mission, who is shaping all of human history to a dramatic conclusion in the coronation of King Jesus. We want badly, in fact, you might even argue we need to be part of something big. And if we aren't finding it in a relationship with God, that doesn't mean we turn it off. That means we go looking for it somewhere else. And our Messiah stops being Jesus and it starts being Donald Trump or Joe Biden. We start rallying around their teachings, their platform. We find people who agree and we celebrate the kingdom that we hope and believe is coming, the one that will bring us hope. I just want you to see sociologically, theologically, anthropologically, that we need meaning and purpose, and we will find it somewhere. The second thing I want you to see, though, is that part of saying it's a cheap copy is saying that we have the real thing every Sunday when we gather. Let's not decrease the meaning of the importance of gathering together, that what they're doing every 4 years and seeing as a highlight for some of them of their lifetimes, we're doing every week. We're not just celebrating our shared commitment to Jesus and our belief in his gospel, but also we're celebrating a kingdom that actually is changing the world and will change the world. That what Donald Trump and President Biden tell us they're going to do may or may not come to fruition. But when Jesus Christ, the one who told us he would die and would rise from the dead and then did it, tells us at the end of the book of Revelation that he is making all things new, we know that's a promise on which he can deliver. We gather every week for our convention, our celebration and coronation of the King we know will lead us to the life we were meant to have. And the third thing I want you to see is that your neighbors are not as disinclined to attend church as you might think. Because we're hardwired for meaning and purpose, we'll find it in a political convention or a sporting event or who knows what else in the huge economy that is America. People are looking for meaning and purpose. And the chances are that the neighbor you invite to church to come find meaning and purpose in Jesus might have spent last night tossing and turning because they just haven't found what they're looking for. Let's not assume that we're the only ones hardwired to want these things. These conventions are reminders that our country is hungry for a kingdom that will deliver, that will not end, and that will include them. It just so happens there's a standing offer for everyone you know to join you in finding exactly that every Sunday here at Christ Community Chapel or at any church that preaches the gospel of Jesus Christ. So next time you flip on the news and they're talking about a political convention, use that as a prompt to leave the house, cross the street, and tell someone you'd love for them to join you this week at church. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Wake Up, Look Up. While you're here, make sure you click like and subscribe so you get future content from Wake Up, Look Up. And hey, leave a comment below letting us know what you thought or interacting in some way with what you just watched. I'd love a chance to talk with you more in the comment section. And also, while you're here, check out all the other content CCC puts out, including the videos that are around me right now.